how Puka Nacua can top his record-breaking rookie season, and could Blake Corum win Offensive Rookie of the Year? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know what are your expectations for Puka Nacua in the 2024 season. Can he top what he did in his rookie year? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. 24/7 Sports, SI, Bleach Report, Dodgers Nation. And of course, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we're talking rookie Blake Corum. Can he win Offensive Rookie of the Year? What will his role be in the Rams offense? And can Puka Nacua top his historic rookie season? But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Travis, we're talking Puka Nacua today, and can he live up to those expectations? Can he live up to that standard that he set in his rookie season when he set a whole new rookie record, 1,486 yards receiving, 105 catches? He was asked by NFL.com about the pressure that he feels heading into the 2024 season, and he said he's not really feeling any pressure and that he's excited about the challenges that come up this year. I think he is feeling a little bit of pressure to, at the very least, be one of the top contributing receivers on this team. There's no guarantee that we're going to get the Pro Bowl, all-world level of Cooper Kupp again. You have Demarcus Robinson, and he definitely needs to be a major, major cog in this offense. But can he top last season? Hey, that's like asking Cooper Kupp to top his 2021 season, right? He probably won't do it, but still, that doesn't mean he can't be one of the best top 10 to 15 receivers in the National Football League.
I think there's a lot of pressure on him coming into this season. I really do. I think that there's a couple of things going on simultaneously. Number one, you're no longer a pleasant surprise, and you're a known commodity. That's different. That last year when he showed up in the league, other than Doug McCain, or there was no people saying, oh, that guy right there, that guy's going to be a really good player. You were the one that was early on that. Everybody's like, hey, who's that guy? Hey, that guy looks a little bit like Robert Woods. Hey, he's a pretty tough receiver too. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, is he really good? Is he one of the best in football? All of those things came to be true. There's not going to be that progression. There's no more found money here. The expectation is be one of the best wide receivers in the league. That's different. That's every defensive coordinator in the league game planning for you, trying to find a way to slow you down. That's probably something he didn't really have to deal with until later on in the season. That's something that they're going to start with when they play with the Rams coming into this season. The expectations of fans, the expectations of his teammates, the expectations of the coaching staff. He doesn't have to have another 1,500-yard season. He doesn't need to have another 105-catch season, but he needs to impact the game in a similar way. I'm not talking about on the back of his football card, if football cards still exist, I'm not quite sure, but rather just, do you have an impact on the game every week the way he did a year ago? That's going to be a big challenge. And then secondly, I think the part that is almost impossible to quantify until we get to see it, he's a star now. Like a legitimate star in the NFL. He's selling jerseys. He's showing up at the NBA All-Star Weekend. His jacket is the one that's displayed when you walk into the Rams draft house. He's the one that gets handled by the media. Before he was a guy, I'd just throw him over there with the radio guys. And now it's like, no. He's one of the guys that gets handled very differently than everyone else. And that just comes along with the territory. How do you respond to that? How do you deal with that? I'm optimistic. He seems like a really good guy, a very hard worker. I think he'll respond to it well. But being a star in Los Angeles is a very specific thing that not everybody handles really well. I like I said, I'm optimistic that he will, but until we see it, it's a real question.
That's a great point. I want to touch on that one first. As far as the star angle, things are just different for you, right? He's really on a first name basis. You just say Puka, you know exactly who you're talking about all throughout the NFL, and he's treated differently, not just on the field, but off the field, but most importantly, on the field. And teams are going to be scheming for him. He's going to be facing the best defenses as far as how they're going to be game playing for him. He's dropped some weight, so I'm very interested to see how that's going to play. Is he going to be a little more nimble? Is he also going to lose some of that physicality? I think that from a body composition standpoint, that's one thing I'm looking at. I think that for him to be a better receiver, I think that was the play. But I do think there's a world where he can actually be a better receiver and not have 1,486 yards, right? I think you want to see more than 6 touchdowns. He led the league with 13 drops. So one thing I want to see, more touchdowns. 2, I want to see less drops the next season. And I think he can become a well-rounded, complete receiver that's consistently in the top 10 in the NFL. And for a 5th-round draft pick, that's more you can ask for. But I don't think that obviously he's saying the right things, but yeah, there is absolutely pressure on you to perform this season. Because if he drops down to 700 yards, you're going to tell me that's not a letdown of a season? No, he has to put up Pro Bowl level numbers or he's not trending in the right direction. So you just want to see him improve upon what he did in 2023, just in different areas, not just overall counting stats.
Yeah, I think the 2 counting stats that I think you do look for a market improvement, like you're not going to do better than 1486 as far as yardage goes. You're probably not going to catch 105 balls again. That's probably a number that you're not going to see again for a while. You can score more than 6 touchdowns. That does not seem like a big ask. I think that him getting into the end zone is a priority, right? To be able to use him as a red zone threat is a big deal. And then you mentioned it, D-Mac, the 13 drops. That number needs to go way down, way down. Like he had a great season, but it's not just a matter of getting that other number higher. It's a matter of really tightening up and becoming a more efficient player as well. And 13 drops, that's virtually won a game. That's a lot. And he's a great player. And I'm optimistic that he's going to work hard. He's got the right quarterback. He's got a complimentary piece in Cooper Kupp that's going to allow him to, not be absolutely the single focus of attention every single week. But yeah, there's a lot of areas where he can get better. He had a great rookie season, but it was exactly that, a great rookie season. Year 2 is kind of the prove it year. Year 2 is kind of the one where you're going to expect a little bit of a backslide. The question is, how much of one, and can he improve in those other areas?
Yeah, the work ethic that is there, the mentality is there. Him working with Cooper Kupp this offseason, throwing up in his bushes, right? Just going all out with the workload. He's almost like the Rams version of Brock Purdy, right? And Brock Purdy proved that he wasn't a flash in the pan, that he was a legitimate star NFL player for his team, is having a significant impact. So I expect that. Is he going to be breaking records in year 2? I don't see that. I see people out there saying, oh, maybe he can break Isaac Bruce's 119 receptions in 1995 for a second-year player. Maybe he can break Isaac Bruce's 1,781 yards he set in 1995. That ain't happening, okay?
No.
That's a long shot. Where he is going to break records, though, is the amount of times that he's going to make me cry. Did you see the video of him buying his mom a car? He bought his mom a car on Behind the Grind, where they featured the Locked On Rams podcast. But, yeah, that's where he's going to break records this season, Travis.
Yeah, look, by all accounts, he's a wonderful guy. By all accounts, he's a real sweetheart, and I use that in the best possible way. I've only gotten a chance to talk with him a couple of times, and both times I've had, there's a way about him that is just incredibly pleasant and likable, and you root for him. He's got a permanent smile on his face, and I hope that being a celebrity, I hope that being the center of attention doesn't change any of that. I'm optimistic that it won't. He is a very, very good football player who's got a lot of pressure coming on to. Again, doing it as a surprise is one thing. Doing it when it's expected is a totally different thing. And that's what makes the very best is, okay, I need you to give me an A+. And they do.
Yeah.
When I need you to give me, when my expectation is, a C+ would be great, and you get an A, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But when I expect an A or an A+, you have to give me an A or an A+. That's a totally different thing.
100%. And just, yeah, I mean, he's a great guy, a great heart. Buying his mom a car. I never bought my mom a car. I couldn't do that. But when we go out to eat, I will split the bill. We'll go half on it. I'll pay my half. And that's kind of where I'm at. That's really the development I've had in that relationship. But maybe I'll get her the Otani Porsche, that he gave Dave Roberts, the model car. But coming up next, can Blake Corum win Rookie of the Year? What will his role be in this Rams offense? Could be one of the sleeper gems from the draft. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. I don't know if FanDuel has odds on D-Mac splitting the bill with his mom when they go out to dinner, but take the under for sure. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, and you get that with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money line, player props, and a whole lot more. But you got to go to FanDuel.com/locked on. Let me tell you that again. It's FanDuel.com/locked on, and make every playoff shot count. And obviously there's hockey playoffs, there's basketball playoffs, baseball's in full swing right now. I love looking at the baseball lines, love looking at the baseball player props as well. The PGA just played. There's all sorts of great golf action at FanDuel. So whatever it is you like, they've got you covered at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. And you can join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, talked about getting excited about Puka early last year. I'm starting to get those same vibes with Blake Corum. The more highlights I watch from his time at Michigan, the way that I think he was going to seamlessly transition to the NFL, I think he'd play a big part in this offense that's committed to the running game. They have a big investment in the offensive line. You want to prolong Matthew Stafford's career. And first thing I just want to say, and I know you love this too, guys that come from big programs, guys that have had success at the college level. My man had 56 touchdowns, 61 total touchdowns if you include those 5 receiving TDs, over 3,600 yards. All this guy knows how to do is be productive and win. He's the best running back in Michigan football history, a program that has as much tradition as any program out there. And he's just a bowling ball, man. 213 pounds, 5'8", 0 body fat, all muscle, 27 on the bench press. I think when you look at Kyren Williams, we know what he did last season, establishing himself as one of the better backs in the league, 95.5 yards per game. He's also missed 12 games in the last 2 seasons. I think there's an opportunity there for Blake Corum, having that nose for the end zone, to find his way in the offensive rookie of the year mix in the NFL.
Yeah, a couple of things, Doug. Number one, I like what you said, that winning is a habit. Performance is a habit. You know, doing the right thing is a habit. That when you get guys that come from these places like Michigan or Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State or any of these big time programs, the expectation from the second you walk on campus is win, perform, or we're going to find somebody else who will. And if you can thrive in that environment, I like your odds of success in the NFL. I think that he's prepared between the years to handle the grind of the NFL and to handle the expectations that come along with being a member of the Los Angeles Rams. That's number one. Number two is, as far as offensive rookie of the year go, that would be a great goal to have, and I hope that he does. It's going to be opportunity that's going to limit him there. You know, unless something, happens to Kyren Williams to put him on the rack for an extended period of time, I just don't think he's going to get the chances to try to put up the kind of numbers that you would have to put up to be the offensive rookie of the year. You really need to have a lot of touches to do it. He's the second option, and he's the second option after all the wide receivers and the starting running back are all the first option. So I don't know how many opportunities and how many touches and how many just pure counting plays that he's going to get. That doesn't mean he can't have a huge impact on the team. That doesn't mean he can't be an effective player when it comes to winning and punching in some key touchdowns here or there. But just to win an award like that, you got to really kind of kill it in some counting stats. And I think that's going to be a challenge for him simply because of who's in front of him.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's extremely unlikely. FanDuel, shout out to them, sponsor the show. He's currently at a plus 7,500. So you bet 100, he wins, you get 7,500. So is it likely? No. And the best possible scenario for the Rams is to have one of the best running backs by committee in the league. You saw it last season with Detroit. Those are young running backs there. And I think unless Kyren Williams goes down with an injury, you're probably going to see statistically it be very difficult for Blake Corum to accumulate those stats, as you mentioned. Kyren last year, 11 starts, 1,144 yards, 12 tutties. So, yeah, he was extremely productive. But since 2010, had 7 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, and 3 wide receivers win that award. Sam Bradford, Todd Gurley won that award. If the opportunity did present itself for Blake Corum to be that feature guy for whatever reason, he could really pile up those stats, because only thing I care about in all this is the fact that the Rams are completely committed to the run game.
Yeah.
And they showed us that last season. They showed us that with what they did in free agency. They showed us that with what they did in the draft. So I'm just thinking, look, this could be a big time sleeper pick. I love what I'm seeing out of this guy on tape. And I just think that, man, I mean, like you said, I mean, some guys, all they know is success, man. All they know is winning. I mean, he's someone that really, really established himself on the highest level against the best teams in the sport. And I think he just got this free and just easygoing nature about him. I don't think the NFL is going to be too big for him. I just really don't. I think he's going to go out there and prove that why he was one of the best running backs at the collegiate level for the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be very comfortable at the NFL level, the speed, because, you know, basically when you're playing at Michigan, you're playing those other places, you're playing with other NFL players. You're playing against other NFL players very frequently. So I have a very high expectations for him there. I do want to go back to something you mentioned about the Rams' commitment to the running game. And you're right. They did reinvest in the offensive line. They did go into the draft and address some things there. They did in free agency, you know, go out and get some guys, Boston Scott and some others that are going to try to kind of bolster that running game. Keep in mind, Sean McVay is the head coach of this team. Sean McVay likes to put the ball in the air. Sean McVay likes to throw the ball. I know that it's the one thing that Sean McVay says that they don't frequently do. He's usually pretty good at kind of planting some seeds, and you can kind of, once you speak McVay, know what he's going for. They don't commit to the run game very often. He likes to throw. I get it. You got Matthew Stafford. You got Cooper Kupp. You got Puka Nacua. You got Robert Woods and Odell Beckham Jr. and all these other Brandon Cooks. You've had a lot of great wide receivers. I'd want to put it in the air as well, but he really likes to put it in the air. So just the sheer opportunities, never mind for a player like Blake Corum, but for a player like Kyren Williams, who did get the ball a lot, but they like to put the ball in the air. They like to put the ball in the hands of the quarterback, and I expect them to do a lot of that this year as well.
It's a good point. When you have Matthew Stafford, too, it's very tempting to do that because, hey, man, we're talking about one of the best arms in the NFL. But I do think we are seeing the evolution of Sean McVay, and I think all signs point to a long-term commitment to getting it done in the trenches. But, yeah, just go watch Blake Corum. It's so refreshing to watch a just one cut and go type of running back, just no wasted motion, not afraid to get in there and doesn't shy away from contact. And I think that Blake Corum is going to be big for this Rams team in 2024. But speaking of Sean McVay, Travis, he's going to hopefully get that window in his office that he wants. And that's going to be at the Rams' new Woodland Hills practice facility. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, the NFL schedule is out, right? You know where and you know when, which means you need tickets. That's why you got to put the Game Time app on your phone and make sure that you are covered. You can even kind of wait until the last minute if you want to, because Game Time has great last-minute tickets. They got flash deals. They got zone deals. Of course, you're going to be able to see exactly where you're sitting. They're going to show you views from all the seats in the venue, lowest price guaranteed, all sorts of the stuff that you're looking for from Game Time. But you can't do it if you don't put the app on your phone. Put the Game Time app on your phone. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. And that way you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Home, road, away, whatever you got. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. That code is LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, so the day of the draft a couple weeks ago, Sean McVay, he was on ESPN, and he was talking about wanting a new office. He told ESPN that his office is depressing, and basically he said he's in the new temporary office and he's been there for 8 years. And when he was hired in 2017, they said it would be a temporary facility, and they're going on year 9. Well, good news for Sean McVay is that according to the Los Angeles Daily News, construction on the new Woodland Hills facility has begun. You can see some renderings, some pictures of it as well. So good news for this Rams team finally getting their home in the San Fernando Valley for basically what's going to be permanent.
Yeah, I was talking with some of the folks when I went to the Rams draft house last week about some Rams employees, and they're really looking forward to going into a new building because Kowloo's been a nice home for them, but it has been a temporary home. There are trailers and everything else, and to live in temporary digs for the better part of a decade is a long time. So I know that they're very excited about that. I will say this, though. I have a feeling if Sean McVay really wanted a window, they would have gotten a stick of dynamite and stuck it in the wall to give him a window. He's Sean McVay. He gets what he wants, right?
Yeah.
I think that Sean McVay probably likes being in his little lair or dungeon or, whatever you want to call it, solitary confinement, and being able to do what he does because whatever Sean McVay wanted, I would imagine they would have accommodated him. It's a good story, but if he really wanted a window, they would have had a guy with a Sawzall cutting a hole in the wall the very next day.
At the very least, they should have got one of those big ones that's a fake picture of a window that folds out with all these nice palm trees and just a different world like that. At least do that little skin there. But I'm with you. I don't even think that he's all focused, laser focused 24/7. He probably did not care. But it's really interesting. The only thing I would say about the Woodland Hills practice facility, it's going to be outdoors. And basically, if you've been there, that's one of the hottest cities in the valley, man. We're talking 100+ degree weather. So it'll be very interesting to see how those summer training camps are going to unfold. And I think it's going to be cool to see most likely more Rams fans in attendance on a day out in basis. I mean, it's going to be really cool. I've been to some of the ones at UCI. You get really good turnouts there. But I think the fact that it's their permanent home, they're probably going to market it a little better. You're probably going to see them just continue to just endear themselves to the fan base. So I think that's kind of another step in that direction as well.
Well, this is part of the process that's going to take some time. And it sounds kind of silly because we are going on year 9 here in Los Angeles since they returned to town. But that's not a ton of time in the grand scheme of things. That you need to turn that kid that's 7 or 8 years old into a lifelong Rams fan. It takes 10, 12, 15 years. It's going to take some time. Having a permanent home in the Valley will certainly help there. They're going to have a footprint in a lot of different places. They'll have their facility in the Valley. They have, obviously, their home stadium is in Inglewood at SoFi Stadium. They were pretty good at creating a little bit of a footprint down in Orange County, down by where I live at UC Irvine, to create fans down there. But this takes time. And I know that all the people involved in marketing of this team understand that. They have done as good of a job as you possibly could ask for in the 9 years that they've been here. To come back to a city, quite frankly, that met them with a great deal of indifference when they showed up to where they are right now. 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl champion, a legendary coach, a Hall of Fame potentially quarterback, Hall of Fame defensive tackle in Aaron Donald. They just have not built SoFi Stadium, which is the Taj Mahal of football stadiums. They have not missed a trick, and this facility in the Valley will certainly help.
Absolutely. And first, I want to say, too, you mentioned SoFi Stadium. I see every single new stadium out there in the NFL, their renderings. Why do you have to all copy the SoFi translucent roof? Let's be honest.
Pretty cool.
Totally got that from SoFi Stadium. So anytime you see that, just know where really it started from as far as popularizing it. So give them some credit. Should have patented that. I don't even know if you can do that. But, yeah. Look, just only 2. We don't know where they're going to be holding. We don't know where the Rams are going to hold training camp yet because UCI is going to – they're going to house the New Orleans Saints. So maybe our channel manager, Ross Jackson, will be in SoCal to check out his Saints for that.
We've already talked about Airbnb situations for Ross here in the greater Orange County area. So he and I are on the same page for, I'm sure that we'll have maybe a little training camp crossover between the Rams and the Saints. It's not a bad idea at all.
Hey, it's getting closer and closer. That definitely means more miles for Mr. Travis Rogers when he goes out there, though. So. That's right. Woodland Hills a little further of a distance. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.